Guys, today's episode with Matt Overton, NFL long snapper, and what a journey he's been on, is presented today by our Sports Spectrum Podcast Network. That's right, we got a network of shows, all types of shows for women, for coaches, for families, for couples, you name it. Check it out at sportspectrum.com to find the show that suits you. And want to tell you about a brand new podcast that we just launched here at Sports Spectrum. It's called Inside the Chapel, Sports Spectrum's Inside the Chapel. It's hosted by Denver Broncos team chaplain Reza Zadeh and Houston Rockets team chaplain from the NBA, Ike Soma. And the show is focused on bringing the messages that professional team chaplains in the sports world, the message that they share with their players. We're bringing those messages right here to a brand new podcast, Sports Spectrum's Inside the Chapel. You can subscribe today. And this is one of those shows that you're going to want to share with someone because it's message driven. It's almost like a sermon that you get to hear, but you get to hear them from a team chaplain for a professional sports team, or even a college team for that matter. It's called Inside the Chapel, Sports Spectrum's Inside the Chapel. You can subscribe to that everywhere podcasts are found or at sportspectrum.com.
Welcome to Sports Spectrum, where we bring Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, former ESPN producer, Jason Romano.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the show. I am Jason Romano. This is the Sports Spectrum podcast. We got a great conversation today with Matt Overton, NFL long snapper, 8 NFL seasons. He's also a real estate agent, and he's got his own brand, mattovertonbrand.com. He's got some great things going on, and he's got a wonderful story of football, but even more than that, of faith in Jesus. It's coming up in just a second. First, want to direct you to our website, sportspectrum.com. Make sure you go there for all of our content, including daily devotionals every morning at 6 a.m., podcasts, all available there, as I mentioned earlier, as well as stories and articles. It's the place you want to go to if you love sports and you love Jesus every day over at sportspectrum.com. All right, let's get to our conversation with Matt Overton. He's got such a great story. He really does, and you're going to enjoy hearing it right now. Matt Overton, NFL long snapper on Sports Spectrum. Matt Overton, welcome to Sports Spectrum, buddy. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed following you guys for a couple of years now, so it's great to be a part of the show now.
Yeah, I feel like we should have done this earlier, but I'm glad that we're doing it today. And this will be a fun conversation. Your NFL story is certainly and definitely one that reminds me of, I was thinking about this, of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, right? And I don't know if you know that verse, but it's one of my life verses where it talks about trusting in the Lord, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight or direct your path. Does that verse sum up kind of this journey thus far for you, especially in football?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tag on that. It's just Proverbs 16:9. Man's heart plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. So kind of the same concept, and yeah, that's been my honestly. I think it was 2010 when I first read that Proverbs and was studying it, and 16:9 just jumped out at me, and it was just like, wow, this is what my career is kind of like. I have my own desires in my heart, and God knows it, but I just have to, trust in his plan and allow him to guide my steps. And that's really what I've been leaning on ever since. So, that's my life scripture right there, verse.
Well, it's interesting. You're wearing a hat that says "Stay ready," which is kind of in a layman's terms, that's what these verses are saying. It's like, all right, I'm going to direct your steps, but be ready, stay ready. And when it's time, I'll make it clear for you. Is that a model that you're kind of walking through right now as you stay ready? Because you're not with an NFL team at this point, hoping to hopefully pick on or land on a team, I should say, for 2021.
Yeah. When I was with the Colts for 5 seasons, and then when I entered, back into the real life free agency deal in 2017, my whole mindset going into that was, stay ready. And it kind of just stuck ever since. And I've pretty much been a free agent every single season since. I've been fortunate to play almost every year. But yeah, every offseason I enter as a free agent. And so I've just had that tagline, the hashtag stay ready, and it's evolved into my own hat that I'm wearing. And it sends a message to young guys or just followers or believers. And it's not just staying ready for, obviously it's football driven because, it's a lot of people associate that with the stay ready and what I'm trying to portray, but I'm also a little bit deeper is a faith-based message and mission. And so we just got these hats designed this year and up and running, and tagged a little scholarship attached to it too, to help young long snappers who are, at a school that, they're not on scholarship. So hopefully we can provide some means to them. But it's been that stay ready message has really been something that I've been, it's like a daily mindset every single day. So I enjoy sharing it, and it's a good reminder for me too.
So are those available to purchase? Because I'm thinking like that's a hat I would want to wear.
Yeah.
Do you have a website for that? I wasn't even planning on doing that,
Yeah.
but once we're talking here, let's let people know where they can get it.
Yeah, Matt Overton brand.com, and I have a couple lines of hats. I have the Stay Ready line, and then we also have I'm a new dad to a baby girl, and we have the Girl Dad Club line too. So
nice.
Two cool little concepts that we're running with, and it's been a lot of fun. So
how has becoming a dad changed your life? Because I know it changed mine. My girl dad experience has my daughter now at 17 and driving and about a year away from graduating high school. You are not there yet, my friend, but it still changes all of our lives when we have that moment when we become a father. How's that been for you? It's
great, and that's my full-time job right now. I mean, obviously, I'm training. You mentioned briefly just the real estate thing, and but really, when I entered, we had our baby in March 25th, and going in after the season, I sat down with the GM, John Robinson of the Titans, and just kind of reflected on the year and what 2021 looks like. And the first thing I said was, listen, like I'm going to be a dad, and that's going to be my full-time duty, and my full attention is to be going to that. And it's the greatest thing ever. It really is. And I know last night I tweeted something about, do I wish I was on a team right now? Absolutely. Do I still want to play? Absolutely. But I truly do believe that God has me where I'm supposed to be right now. And that's being a stay-at-home dad and being a husband and really being here for those critical times in her life. And, because I could easily be out somewhere with the team in OTAs while my family's still here. So there's a blessing in the season of waiting when it comes to football. But, the blessing is just being here and being her dad and being able to help my wife, because it's a crazy change of lifestyle but all the cliches are true and very, very real. And we're really enjoying it. So, but yeah, she's 3 months old tomorrow, and it goes by quick. It feels like we've had her for years already. It's kind of a weird feeling, but she's growing every single day. And I'm so glad I'm here to witness it.
Matt Overton's our guest here on Sports Spectrum. You have such an interesting journey and such an interesting position that you play, long snapper. I also know you played other positions as I'm doing my research in high school and into college. But when does the long snapping thing begin to be something that you realize, oh, this might be a potential ticket to a pro football career?
Yeah, it was probably my freshman year of college is when I really was told by coaches, hey, you really have a knack at this thing. This is a special. I knew it was a special skill in high school, but it wasn't until college that it really just kind of dawned on me like, wow, this really is, I feel like, my God-given ability that can take me to the NFL, which is my dream.
Yeah.
And, high school, I played, offense and defense and was a starter both ways. And snapping I did it all 4 years. And I honestly don't remember quite doing it, frankly, because, my energy and focus wasn't on that position because I was consumed with everything else. But I did do it because I played center as a freshman, and the coach just made me do it because I was already snapping the ball on first and second and third down, and why not do it on fourth, So, and I had I was the only one on the team that could do it relatively well, and I continued doing it through high school, and then It was a kind of icing on the cake for me when I was doing the recruiting process for college. And, I wanted to play linebacker and defensive end, and which I did, but long snapping really helped me gain more interest because of that skill. And then, when I was in college, the coaches were like, man, this is, if the NFL is your dream and goal, I mean, you really need to stick with this and you really need to keep working at it. And I did. I went to summer camps in the off season and sought out help. And at the time, I think YouTube was relatively new, and go online and watch videos. And it's crazy how much the position has evolved over the past 10 to 15 years. Now there's all these specialized camps all across the country. Kids are getting scholarships left and right. They're being ranked. They're being recognized as All-Americans and all that kind of stuff. That was not even the case when I was in high school. And now schools are actually taking on snappers just as a snapper before they had to play another position to even get considered for a scholarship. So it is cool to see the position evolve. But for the most part, I was pretty much self-taught. I had no coaching. So it was one of those things where, God gave me the ability to do it. And then just over time, just refining that craft on my own. And then when I got the NFL opportunity, that's when now I really needed help from somebody else, because now it was all the details are so finite and you had to be on point every single time. And so my first experience in the NFL was pretty rough. And the acronym "not for long" was something that I experienced, so I had to go back to the drawing board and seek help, and fortunately got some great help and helped me, just evolve as a snapper and get better and grow. And when I got other opportunities, I just improved and fortunately stuck.
So on this journey, where does faith come into play? Is that something that you had in you since you were little? Is that something that you had to grow into? Is there a moment, maybe a testimony you can share? Where does the faith angle of this and your faith in the Lord come into play?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in the Catholic Church. So I was in church nearly every Sunday. And so it was my entire childhood, fond memories of, going to church, going to catechism as a young kid, confirmation, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until college that I really started to seek the Lord. And I did my first Bible study at Western Washington University with our team chaplain. He invited players over on Monday nights with his family, barbecue, watch the Monday night football game, have a little fellowship. And so that was my first time really being directed on how to, open a Bible. Where do you start? How do you learn? What does this mean? And just guided us very generically, really. So that was around 2006, 2005, around that time, where I was now starting to, the interest in seeking the Lord was something that was in my heart. Whereas before it never really, I knew that God existed. I knew who God was, but I didn't have that really intimate relationship with the Lord. And so college was kind of that seed that got planted in me. And then it was, fast forward, nearly 10 years where, I got saved in 2014 at PAO, which is a NFL offseason men's retreat. Players outreach, and was in San Diego, led by Drew Brees and Sir Francis Chan, I believe his name is.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was there leading that. The kid in the family was there. So Matt Hasselbeck was on my team at the Colts at the time, and he was a huge advocate for PAO. And so I went and had an incredible time and, gave my life to the Lord there, where my team pastor for the Colts and Hasselbeck both baptized me, which is really cool. So I had those moments in my, early in my NFL career where, I was really seeking the Lord. I was really felt like my heart was being tugged at. I was still living in sinful ways. And, just over time, just God kept revealing certain things to me. And it really came through a lot of adversity through football, is when I really needed to lean on the Lord and seek his guidance and wisdom. And just over time, just been very, very lucky and fortunate to have great fellowship on each team I've been on. Every team has had a full-time chaplain, so I've been able to have that resource and that outlet and that person to go to in times of need, and even not even just every single day, just, having those conversations, whether they were, whether, I was in a good place or not. And just realizing that the people who I surround myself with are really, really, really important, especially my spiritual growth. But I think the biggest, I'll go back a little bit further. And when I was with the Seattle Seahawks, in 2010, I broke my foot. So it's my first time going through like an injury, issue. And they had suddenly released me due to my injury. So I went back home, and it was in a dark place. And, I had a good family friend at the time who had invited me over for a Bible study. So I went over for a Bible study, and I, just again, like I said, I was really, really down on myself, didn't feel like football was in the cards for me with the injury and the setbacks and all that kind of stuff. And I had a Bible study that night or the next morning. And that's when Proverbs 16:9 jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Well, the next morning, my friend was like, "Hey, let's go get you your first Bible or a study Bible, at least, so that way you can continue to learn and grow." And we did. And I kid you not, the moment that right after we bought that Bible, the Seahawks called me on the phone and say, "Hey, we're going to bring you back." And I was just in awe. And my friend was sitting in the back of the car, and he was laughing. He was like, "Man, this is one of God's miracles that happens, all the time. And this is just proof that, he's got his hand on your life right now." And so those are one of those pivotal moments in my life, in my faith, that I remember like it was yesterday, and still to this day, now being married, and the trials and that my wife and I have gone through as a couple, and, seeing how faithful he's been, through our marriage, and now with our baby girl. I mean, there's been so many times, but I really just say, the people that have steered me and led me, spiritually, and those guys that have always been there as mentors, and whether it's a teammate or family member or just simply friends, those people have been so pivotal in my life and my spiritual growth.
It's interesting too, because let's take a season like last year. And by the way, that was an amazing story that you just shared. All of that was amazing. But let's take a season like last year, right? Where you're not on a team to begin the season, and then an opportunity comes and you end up with the Titans, who have a great season and, have this really unique brotherhood going on within their locker room too, with a lot of guys. And, we got to meet a bunch of them at PAO a couple years ago. And it was just really neat to be at this conference. And PAO, by the way, is the parent company for Sports Spectrum. If people are wondering, like, what is PAO? It's a conference that happens and sort of a movement for professional athletes. And we got to meet a few of the guys on the team. Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, was there, and just a few of the guys, and we interviewed them for the show. And that was the 2019 season that we talked to them right after it. And then I saw what was happening last year, and I'm like, there's a real brotherhood happening with this Titans. And you walk into that. I'm curious what that was like, because it feels like, from the outside looking in, that you were received pretty well, especially within that faith community where you're at the 50-yard line and you're praying together and doing Bible study. What was that like, though, kind of coming into a team past midway through the season, if I remember correctly, but about midway, and having this opportunity to perform on the field, but to really grow and bond with a team and teammates in a very unique situation?
Yeah. I mean, again, this is 2020 was another year where, I know, everyone has their setbacks and has their 2020 just proved to be a very difficult year for so many reasons, for so many people.
Of course.
And my wife and I, we were very fruitful in 2020, and we got married early March, so right before the pandemic hit and everything shut down. And so we were blessed in that regard, where we had our wedding and nothing skipped a beat. We got pregnant in 2020, and we were praying for football, and selfishly, my heart's desire was, hey, if the door opens for football, please let it be somewhere close to home, because I have a wife now, and a pregnant wife at that.
Sure.
And she needs me. And lo and behold, the two teams that brought me in were Indianapolis and Tennessee Titans. And so I worked out for both teams. And, with the COVID issues and the protocols, the Titans felt comfortable enough to bring me in and put me on their practice squad because I was here local. And, I was a veteran guy and reliable if something happened. And, unfortunately, something did happen where their snapper got, tested positive for COVID and had some struggles in the season. And I was right there to, fill the void and jump in and play. Yeah. I think it was like week 6 as I got activated. And then I played the rest of the year. But, going into that locker room, I already knew there was strong believers. Brett Kern, played against him for years, incredible guy. And he's always been one of those spiritual leaders on the team, very outspoken. I know Ryan Suckup, who, when he was there, the kicker, he's now in Tampa, but he was another guy that, left his print on that team. But one of the first persons I met going into the facility was Mitch, who is their full-time pastor. He literally has his own office. He's right there as soon as you walk in by the cafeteria. He's one of the first people you see every morning.
James Mitchell, we're talking about.
Yep. And so he's great leader. So we had him. And not every team, people don't realize, not every team has a full-time position like that. You may see your team chaplain or pastor maybe once or twice a week, or on Saturday night before a game or something like that. But Mitch was there every single day on the sideline at practice. We had our fellowship every Friday morning, I believe. Again, guys like Ryan Tannehill, Kevin Byard, Brett Kern, so many guys led that group. And over the year, I just felt like it got bigger and bigger and bigger. We had to do a lot of Zoom stuff, because we couldn't do it in person, but it was still strong, so those, walking in, the Colts had great leadership. The Jaguars had great leadership, but there was definitely something special about the Titans locker room. Just feeling like the Holy Spirit was definitely in that locker room all the time. So those guys, that team's got some great leadership, and it really rides on Mitch, and he's there full time, and he pours himself and his life into that team. And so it's really strong. And the GM, J-Rob is a believer too. And he's in every meeting. He's out there at practice. So that's another spiritual leader who is very pivotal in that growth of that team.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I do have to ask you a football question. Describe Derrick Henry up close, because I watch him on TV, and my wife's a Titans fan, so we're watching a lot of the Titans games, and he's a beast on TV. Up close, I have to imagine he's quite the specimen for a running back.
He is. He's like a gentle giant. He is very I don't want to say he's shy, but I don't know him extremely well, but his demeanor comes off very quiet. Just kind of stays in his lane, works extremely hard. But yeah, you walk out and you see this like tall, skinny guy, and he could be a tight end, he could be a receiver, but no, he's your running back, and he's just like, he's deceptively fast. Obviously, he can run people over and stiff arm anybody and break away. And he's one of those athletes that you just, looking back on my career, he definitely falls into that category of like top athletes I ever got to play with, and couldn't be a nicer guy. But he is a specimen, man. It's pretty incredible to see what he did last year with breaking, 2,000 yards. And it's cool to, you had that, it was almost like, all right, if we ran the ball 100 times and he gets stopped 99, that 100th time he's going to break it all the way and we're going to win the game. And that it honestly, it happened like almost every game where it just be patient, just keep giving the ball. And sure enough, he breaks one away. And he did that a handful of times throughout the year in his career. And he's incredible,
It's great.
He is.
Who's your furry friend that's been hanging out with you right there on the Zoom?
Oh, this is my other girl, Franklin. She's a puppy. So I got my hands full with bunch of estrogen in this house, huh?
She
Oh
looks
yeah,
like she's a daddy's girl. We'll put it that
yeah.
way for dog
She's
purposes.
about, I don't know, 8 months now, so she's got her puppy in her, and she's a handful as well. So
Yeah.
that's another full-time job for me is dog duty. So
Yeah, you got a puppy and you got a baby. I mean, come on, Matt.
oh
It's
yeah, yes.
you also have a real estate license, which is fascinating to me, because you're an NFL player as well, but you have this real estate thing going on. Tell me about that. How did that become something that you were interested in?
Yeah, I've always had an interest in real estate, and in college, I helped build custom homes, and that's kind of where the interest came into play. And I always knew, as fun as it was to build houses from the ground up and be out there hammering nails and cutting plywood and cutting studs. I mean, it was a lot of work. It was hard. And I was always told, hey, you want to be on the other side of this transaction. You want to be the one who's brokering the deal, or the investor or whatnot. And so that always stuck in my mind. And, once I had the means to buy my own house, I did that. And it was one of the greatest moments, as a young adult. And, and so I really got interested in the investing side. So obviously it's an investment buying your own house, but then I invested in commercial space too, downtown Indianapolis, and ran a business out of that. And then I had a rental property in Nashville, the home that we live in now. That was once an Airbnb. Yeah. But it was the 2019 season where I was not playing. I was with Jacksonville. Then I had some time off before I had a little cup of coffee with the Chargers. But it was that season where I was like, you know what? If I don't go and get my license now, like I never will. And the time to do it is right now because I have the time. So I went and got licensed in 2019 in Indiana, began buying and selling houses with the real estate team there, and just kept doing it. Was really successful my first year. It took about 6 months for me to really get going, but it was early 2020 before everything kind of slowed down with COVID. It was full steam ahead. And then even like the summer of last year was still pretty steady. I mean, real estate didn't suffer too much during the pandemic. People were still buying and selling, and so it's been really good. And now 2021, it's even crazier, especially here in Nashville. And so I got licensed right after the season. I got licensed in Tennessee, so I hold 2 licenses now in Indiana and Tennessee. And I still do business back in Indiana, but now shifting to building a network here in Nashville. So last year during the season, until I got signed, that was my job. And once I got signed and I had clients, I was like, oh, geez, man, how am I going to juggle football and clients that are buying and selling homes, and during the course of last year, we did three different homes in transactions. And so that was a learning experience within itself, because there was times where, I'm at practice all day and, my clients need me or need somebody to talk to about inspections or appraisals or offers. And, I don't get to my phone until about 4 p.m., so I hustle home and get on the computer and help where I'm at. But it was great. And now being licensed here in Tennessee, it's been fun because it's a new market. It's an exciting place where a lot of people want to live. And
I was just going to say, it's a booming market, right?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the growth is crazy, and the supply is so low and the demand is so high. It makes it really hard being a buyer right now. But you could sell your kid's playset on the corner for quite a lot of money if you wanted to out here in Nashville. But yeah. No, it's been great, and it's been fun because I've been able to help some teammates in the process, whether they're buying or selling, and just being a sounding board for them, because for a lot of these guys, it's the first time they've ever bought a home, and they're in their early 20s, and it's also important for me to take my knowledge and help them realize like what they really can afford to, even though they have this contract, and what's more realistic and with living within their means and all that kind of stuff. And then also talking about wise investing within real estate as well. So it's been fun helping teammates out too.
Yeah, it's almost like you could be you mentioned Mitch is the team chaplain. You could be like the team, real estate agent, right?
I know. I'm trying to. I trust me.
Why
I'm
not?
trying to get that. I'm trying to get that title, man. There's new coaches and players every year who needs a place to stay.
Absolutely. Such
Yeah.
turnover in the NFL. Like what a perfect idea to bring somebody who actually knows the game and knows the game, if you know it, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean, in terms of real estate and football. So
Yeah.
good stuff, Matt. Let me ask you this as we wind down. My last question. I ask this to all of our guests here on the show. Today, as we talk, and God speaks to us every day, what's he teaching you right now? I mean, you're wearing the Stay Ready hat, so that's it. That's probably something he's teaching you and been teaching you for a long time. But what's the lesson the Lord is teaching you today when you think about all that God has been showing you and impressing on your heart? What's he showing you? What's he teaching you?
I mean, if anything, I know my heart is still desires to play. My wife and I talk about it quite a bit, and I've always said is as long as I'm healthy, I know that I can contribute, play at a high level, and I have the energy and the passion to still play. That I'm all in, and my wife is all on board as well. And so, we pray for opportunities. If it isn't God's will to open those doors, He will. And it's just staying patient, staying ready, and really kind of I touched on it a little bit earlier. I was kind of reflecting last night. I wish I was at mini camp this weekend, or I wish I was on a team, or when's that opportunity going to come? But I just felt like God just saying, hey, slow down. You're exactly where you need to be right now. First and foremost, you're a dad. You need to be her daddy right now, because this time of her life is so important. You need to be a husband. You need to be a great husband at that. Because my wife and I were going through the growing pains of not only being newlyweds, but now we're parents. So there's a lot of navigating. There's a lot of learning, and so we're trying to learn how to communicate better and parent well together and all that kind of stuff. So that's really what the Lord is put on my heart very recently. And I have the opportunity to mentor young long snappers too, and coach them. And so that's been awesome. Just being able to, pay it forward in that respect. And I get a thrill helping these guys out, and so many doors have opened because of that, with helping guys at Vanderbilt and these other colleges, and even the high school kids. And so just kind of, put on that coach hat or that mentor hat a little bit with long snapping has been a lot of fun, but like I said earlier, just, there's a lot of lessons in the season of waiting. And, that's what the free agency life really is. I mean, it's you learn to stay patient and just stay persistent with your craft and keep working, because that phone call does come when you least expect it and at random hours of the day. And so at the same time, I'm so lucky to be here with my little family and all my girls and my little crazy puppy, so that's really what I feel like, God's put on my heart right now.
It's such a unique position too, long snapper. Like there's only 32 of them in the NFL, and 32 maybe that are waiting, right? There's not a ton of people out there who can do what you do and do it well. And it's great that you still want to do it. And I'm believing God's going to open up a door too. Who knows where that'll be, but we'll believe that. So Matt, thank you, buddy. Thanks for being here on the show. All the best to you. And again, mattovertonbrand.com is the website if you want to get the hat that he's wearing right now, along with some other apparel. Stay ready. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless, man.
Great stuff there from Matt Overton, NFL long snapper, and we wish him nothing but the best. And he was wearing a hat during our taping that said, stay ready. And that's certainly what he's doing right now. And we hope he lands with an NFL team in 2021 and gets that opportunity to continue his NFL dream. We appreciate Matt. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. You can look up Matt Overton, Overton. Follow him. Let him know that you heard his Jesus story here on Sports Spectrum, and encourage him and let him know that you hope he lands with a team in 2021. We certainly do, and we'll be praying for Matt this year. We also want to direct you to our website, sportspectrum.com, for all of our content, podcasts, articles, devotionals, all for free at the website, sportspectrum.com. And make sure whatever app you're listening to this podcast on, you click subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. When we drop a new episode, and we're dropping 3 to 4 a week, it comes right to your phone and you never miss an episode when you subscribe to Sports Spectrum's podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Join us next time for a brand new episode, and have a great rest of your day. This is the Sports Spectrum Podcast.